everybody? It's Mr. Ninja GFX here, bringing to you another speed art video. This is actually speed art number 6. I guess we're sticking in a trend of TK. The last two speed art videos that I ended up doing was for TK. One was for Aborted TK, who is the illustrator and designer for Kostif, and then I did Kostif, and now I'm doing Sunny. I guess we're just sticking with the trend. But for anybody that has not seen any of my previous videos, and there'll be some links in the description down below that you can check out some of the previous stuff that I ended up doing, as well as some information about Sunny here, who you can actually check out some of her stuff. Anybody, again, that has not seen any of my previous videos on how I ended up doing it, is I'll talk and ramble for a little bit here, and then I'll just let you guys watch the rest of the video as it goes along. I'm going to kind of break down exactly what I'm doing, and then you'll just kind of watch me as I go along. So what I ended up doing there at the very beginning was I ended up tracing the design of Sunny's actual logo, onto my tracing paper, and then I ended up, after I ended up tracing it over, I ended up transferring it over to my stamp block there, my pink stamp block, which I am carving around the outside of the actual design, and then I'll go back inside with a thinner carving tool to actually get the inside design, so that any of the raised area will actually not hold the ink, will hold the ink, and any place that's a little bit lower down and lower than the actual high raised areas will actually not hold the ink. So then whenever you transfer it onto whatever you're going to, it will hold transfer. So that particular way, for anybody that's never really used stamps, it's the same general concept, just bigger. With that being said, I actually, whenever I ended up going to actually transfer it onto the canvas itself, it doesn't transfer. So actually, all of the painting I ended up completely doing by hand. The lines and stuff that should have been transferred over, you'll see whenever I get to it, didn't actually transfer. So it was interesting. It was definitely interesting, and amazingly enough, it kept the majority of its shape, the circular shape, without me actually having to mess with it too awful much. But what I'm going to end up doing after is I end up finishing up the stamp. I will actually start with the canvas itself on painting it. I started out with acrylic paints, several different shades of blue, to do like a wave kind of effect, and then I went back in with a watercolor, and I actually ended up doing watercolor on the bottom portion of it, which I ended up doing again blues, and then I ended up using some purples, whites, and darker blues, and I believe some black too, to kind of get it a little bit darker. After I ended up finishing up that aspect of it, what I ended up doing afterward was I went back with acrylic and actually ended up blending it a little bit better, so you can clearly, well, you'll see whenever you look at it, you'll clearly be able to tell where the acrylic begins and the watercolor begins. I didn't like that. I actually wanted to be a smooth transition to where you could really tell which is which, and I was really happy on how it actually ended up turning out. So what I ended up doing is I go in and I do some of the blending to actually help it kind of transition a little bit better. Then after I get done with that, I didn't like how some of the blending ended up turning out, so then I ended up deciding to do kind of a splatter. After I did the splatter, I didn't like on how it looked again, on how it kind of ended up turning out. With painting, it's a lot of trial and error, especially with doing logos and abstract-y kind of stuff. You just kind of roll with it. You kind of pick and choose, and you adapt along the way of actually transitioning to actually paint it. I didn't like how the splatter ended up turning out, so I actually ended up using a wet brush, and I actually ended up doing a half circle kind of design over top of my wave, which ended up making it gray. I continuously ended up dipping my wet brush into water, and ended up blending it out a lot with the watercolor and dragging down some of the acrylic into the watercolor, and vice versa. Afterward, after doing all that, I was really kind of happy about how it was turning out. So then at that point in time, I felt that it would be a perfect timing for me to do the transfer of the actual logo with the stamp. As I stated before, the stamp did not transfer very well. So what I ended up having to do was do everything completely from hand from there going forward. It was a painstaking, long process, but at the very end, you'll see it actually ended up turning out quite well. So again, guys, I appreciate everybody that ended up stopping out to watch my speed art video. I also want to give a special shout out over to Sunny for reaching out and wanting one of her own. And just thank you, and I'm very extremely blessed for the individuals and people that I do have in my life at the current moment, and I appreciate the overwhelming amount of support that I've been getting from absolutely everybody in the community. So thank you again, guys, for watching. And if you feel the need to, you can skip towards the very end to see exactly what it looks like after it's done. Or you can check out my Instagram or any of the social media stuff that will also be in the description below. Thanks again, guys. This is Ninja, and I'm out. again, guys, for everybody that ended up stopping by to watch the video. If you did end up liking the video, make sure you slap that like button and comment or subscribe. A special shout out and thanks over to Nikon Cameras, G Fuel, and Monster Energy for keeping me going. Astro for the headset that I'm using that I was also listening to music. And special big shout out over to TK for helping with the video and reaching out to get some work done. Thanks again, guys.